My name is Sam Mendelson, and I studied abroad in Accra, Ghana for 4.5 months in fall of 2013, and this is my story.
You'd think that going to a new place would evoke certain feelings and emotions. However, that isn't always the case.
It's interesting. I didn't feel homesick initially. I think it's important to think about that, like, when you study abroad, or like when you travel, or even when you like go to college, like the problems you have in your life back at home don't disappear when you go to a different country.
Gary Weaver explains that culture is an abstraction. It's a concept or an idea. Before we embark on a journey to an unknown place, we oftentimes have ideas about what the air will smell like or what the people are going to sound like. But it's only a matter of time until those intangible abstractions become the concrete realities before our eyes. Generalizations should never become stereotypes. It's important to understand that everyone is culturally unique.
You can read like guidebooks or information packets, but that summer before I left, I had no idea. I didn't know what it felt like to have, red dust caked on your ankles and on your feet and in your sandals. And I didn't know what it felt like to be squished in a trotro with 20 other people. I didn't know what fufu tasted like. You can read about these things, but you can't, actually feel them in the same way.
And while we feel what we confidently know, the uncertainty of not knowing can result in a beautiful experience.
And I think that, in many ways kind of speaks to a very different culture than the United States, where we're planned, we know what we're doing, whereas you go to climb a mountain, but then you decide to go to a festival. It's a very different, kind of path and route. So I think it was beneficial to, not go in with a lot of expectations because, like I said, I didn't know what my host family or who my host family was until, the day before I moved in with them.
Change is ultimately a very difficult thing.
Maybe on the surface, it seems superficial, but underneath those things, there's a lot of complexity and a lot of, real challenges. How do you unpack that?
How do we unpack that? But the bigger question we have to ask is how do we begin to dispel the misperceptions of those cultures unfamiliar to them?
And their friends, why are you going to Ghana? Oh, are you going there to, help in an orphanage or build a school? These, stereotypes we have about, voluntourism.
Each sojourner's pattern of adjustment is different. Fortunately for Sam, only a few days upon his arrival in Ghana, he was deep into what Weaver refers to as the honeymoon phase. And throughout his months there, he was fortunate enough to undergo a unique and special intercultural adaptation.
I tell people that before going to Ghana, I had no dreams about Ghana. And I thought, to myself, you're about to go study abroad, are you going to have some dreams about it? And I guess I didn't have mental picture to even dream about. But the moment, one weekend after I lived with my host family, I would start to have nightmares, every week, of waking up in my bed, and instead of waking up with my mosquito net around me in my host family's home, I would wake up in my home in Deerfield, Illinois. No offense to my home in Deerfield, Illinois. But I had this fear about this experience suddenly ending and waking up and all these amazing people I met not being right next to me.
Time is explained by Edward Hall as two different types of orientations: Polychronic time exists in cultures that value the present over schedules. People feel in control of time rather than commanded by it.
The reason I cried, was because I was sad, but also because, I felt so much love from, these people that didn't really know me, but, somehow, trusted me and, accepted me, into their church. And then to have, that whole community, pray for me, and the pastor, pray for me after, I thanked them, was really powerful for me.
For those who travel abroad, some of their re-entry stress can come from their struggle to communicate their experiences. After the first few stories that the traveler tells, his or her friends and family usually tire of their stories from abroad. Explained by Weaver as the Uncle Charlie syndrome, communication after re-entry can be difficult because of the lack of shared experiences.
My close friends and family, might know better than, other people because, I sat with my family and clicked through each photo and talked about it, and that was right when I came back, and things were super fresh. But it is still, it's hard to explain it to people. And it's also hard to explain it to people in a meaningful way. But also it's important to me that, I do justice to, the amazing place that I lived in. Because, for some people, they never heard of Ghana before I, studied abroad there. Or maybe they, knew it was in Africa but didn't really know anything about it. I might know more about one small part of the world, but spending 4.5 months in Ghana by no means gives me, ownership of, a history and a culture. I don't know if there's ever a point where I can truly understand a Ghanaian experience.
And throughout the discovery of the African continent, Sam had some time for some self-discovery as well.
I don't know if it's as much as, what I learned about myself as, what I learned about who I want to be, or who I can, where I can be better or stronger as a human being.
But we really can't be better people unless we are willing to take some risks.
Big step, or even just a small step, out of, your bubble, your shoes, into someone else's, and how much that can make you a more whole person. There's so many people, and I know I will never meet them all, but in some ways, I do. It's easy to become, a horse with blinders on, and just only kind of see what's right in front of you. Just remembering that there are so many other people with so many, amazing and difficult and exciting and challenging and hard but still beautiful experiences, that's really important. It's something that is, tapped into the bellies of mothers, and the babies are, the rhythm is shaken into the babies that they are wrapped around their mother's back. It's something that becomes a part of you from birth until, you die. And I don't think, I spend 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, I can ever fully understand that. I might get closer, I might have a more nuanced understanding, but, I don't know if there is ever a point where I can totally get it.